Welcome back to our series where we are exploring beyond indica sativa hybrid, talking about the other categories of cannabis along this spectrum. I'm Dr. Riley Kirk. I'm a cannabis educator and scientist.
I'm Kris, and I'm an assistant cultivator at ARL Healthcare.
And we are going to start with the most stimulating varieties of cannabis. These are going to be your closest to that classic sativa uplifting feel, and that's going to be Jacks and Hazes.
Jacks and Hazes are very unique because they are sometimes tough to find in the market. Why? They are very difficult to cultivate, usually because of their flowering period. They sometimes can go for 12 to 16 weeks, and in a commercial market, that might not seem very well to a cultivation because they're trying to push out the highest numbers and the fastest they can.
What are the fastest? How long is a normal flowering?
For sure. I would say most cultivations are looking for something that 8 to 9 weeks.
Okay.
Where you can get multiple runs in a room per year. Whereas, sativas, you might only get 2 or 3 runs a year. And that doesn't really seem to market very well for some people.
And they'd probably be more expensive too, right? If they took that long to grow.
Correct. The amount of hours that have to go into growing it, the amount of nutrients that have to be into feeding it, not to mention all the electricity and water for that extended period.
Why do they take so long to grow?
That's an interesting thing. Most sativas, true land-raised sativas, come from more around the equator where they have longer days, 16 hours of light a day is casual. We here in New England, we don't have that much light. Our summers are only about 170 days, where around the equator, they're for 300 plus. Much easier for them to finish their time of growing, whereas here we're constantly trying to just find the next fastest thing.
Interesting. So that's why it can be kind of difficult to find these varieties on the legal market. Going to dispensaries, it can be difficult to find these more classic sativa varieties.
Yep. You really have to focus all of your energy to a specific cultivar. You maybe monocrop it and keep one strain in a room, and that's not variety anymore, and it's not as desirable.
Gotcha. So when I think of Jacks and Hazes, I think of Jack Hair, which is kind of a super classic strain or cultivar. Also an amazing advocate in the cannabis community who the strain is named after. What other ones are kind of your classic Jacks and Hazes?
Most people are going to know Super Silver Haze, Super Lemon Haze. Those are some of your typical ones. In the Nature's Heritage line, we have a couple that we focus on, one of them being Ebony Ivory. I will warn you on that. It is quite stimulating. It is very intense. We also have a Lilac Diesel, almost lemony haze, but yet it's still florally, and it is much more able to keep you a little calmer. It's not so stimulating.
So a lot of these Jacks and Hazes can kind of cause anxiety almost, like they're so stimulating that for some people it might be, it might be good. Like if you already have a hyperactive brain, it can kind of help you lock in. But if you're already prone to anxiety and you're already kind of up there, smoking a strain like this might actually give you pretty bad anxiety. You might kind of get in your head so much that you're like, okay, that was a little much for me.
Yep. And that is exactly why we're talking about this, because there is a balance of how much of a stimulation in these certain strains, where now hybriding, or the hybrids kind of balance you out a little more.
So you can get a little more balance of effect instead of just that 100% on. Yeah. So let's talk about terpenes, the smell of these Jacks and Hazes, because we just talked about anxiety, and there is one terpene that's found in Jacks and Hazes a lot called limonene, which is a very bright, uplifting smell. You kind of smell it throughout your whole nose. And although this is uplifting, it can actually, we have science that shows that it can help with anxiety too. So when you are looking at Jacks and Hazes, looking for high limonene can actually help counteract some of that anxiety. But it's not just one terpene that we see in the plant. There's more than one, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so there's also pinene. Terpinolene is really well known as a Jacks and Hazes kind of staple terpene, as well as beta-phalandrine, which is a less known terpene, but it shows up very often with terpinolene, kind of as a pair. How would you describe the aroma that you smell when you're actually smelling the flower?
Depending on which haze variety, you're coming from, you sometimes get almost a metallic-y type hint of maybe your typical basement smell with the funk. Gets you. It reminisces of maybe what your grandmother's basement might have smelled like, but
I love that.
With the metallic-y, it is it is quite invigorating to your nose, the balance of the two of them that come together.
And it's almost like if you smell something like astringent-y, how it kind of like you smell and it just wakes you up just by smelling it. Same thing with these more uplifting varieties. We always say the nose knows. So if you smell flower and you're like, whoa, that just like made my eyes wide and was really uplifting, you know, your nose is telling you that that is an uplifting variety. If it causes that reaction just from smelling it, it very well might cause that reaction from smoking it as well.
Definitely. When you pop a Nature's Heritage jar, that nose knows right away, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Some other like scents. I love the basement smell that you're talking about. I feel like everyone can kind of has some sort of memory of like a basement that they smell. But also I think it's just very like almost chemically sometimes. Like I compare it to a cleaning agent. If you were like using Pine Sol or some sort of cleaning agent, you know, for this table, if we were cleaning around here, that kind of familiar cleaning, piney, refreshing smell is also kind of what we're looking for here.
Definitely. I like that you say the cleaning. It's almost bringing a clean sweep to your senses in a way too and starting you off fresh.
I love that. Kind of feels like it's cleaning out your brain a little bit.
We're at least winding you up.
Yeah, exactly. And then beyond terpenes, or what we're talking about here, the smells of cannabis, there's also a unique cannabinoid that's also found in these Jacks and Hazes, which contribute to the uplifting effect, but also for some varieties that make you feel really locked in. Like if you have 100 emails to write, if you have to go clean your house, if you have to do stuff, a lot of Jacks and Hazes really help people feel locked in, and that's thought to be due to this cannabinoid called THCV, or tetrahydrocannabivarin. It's a long name, but just look for THCV. And it's not present in all Jacks and Hazes, but if you look for like Durban poison or anything with like Durban in it, I think that's a pretty common way to find THCV.
I'm glad you brought that up. That is something that, you know, as a cultivator, I want to help educate people that it's not just about THC. There are other cannabinoids that are happening in the same all at once that are giving you a certain effect. THCV is a very unique one, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
All of these kind of words we're talking about, these different terpenes, cannabinoids, you know, of course we're talking about smell that you can look for, but you can also look at the certificate of analysis that comes on the products that you're purchasing. It's often a QR code or just kind of listed almost like nutritional facts. And you can look for these different things that we're talking about, or you can ask your bud tender, hey, do you have any varieties that have THCV in it? Do you have any sativa-leaning varieties that have terpenylene as the dominant terpene? You know, these are kind of the language that you can use with your bud tender to help refine and really get what you're looking for at the dispensary.
If we have a better knowledge going into these dispensaries about, again, the specifics we're looking for, it helps the bud tenders find what we're looking for, not necessarily always just looking off a recommendation of a number of a tag. I'm very excited to be part of this, you know, explaining each individual part of what we see in each category.
Absolutely. And do you have anything else to add for people looking for Jacks and Hazes?
Like I said in the beginning, Ebony Ivory is someone who really, if you're really looking for something uplifting, almost on the level of anxiety, it could be the one for you. If not, I recommend Lilac Diesel. It's a much more balanced, sativa-leaning hybrid, if you will. Beautiful profile. I recommend it highly. One of my personal favorites.
And it smells amazing. You can picture that like Lilac Diesel. That lilac comes from that terpenylene a lot, but also, you know, other aromatic compounds in there. So it smells beautiful, it feels beautiful, and is much less anxiety-inducing.
I'll add, too, that it is one of our highest terpene strains on the market.
Oh, very cool. That makes sense why it has such a nose on it.
Yes.
So Lilac Diesel is a pretty unique strain. Can we talk about it just a little bit more?
Of course, definitely. I think Lilac Diesel is one of our most unique profiles because one can fit into many categories, but your nose smells many categories, a bouquet of flavors, if you will.
Ooh.
It starts off maybe a little lemon hazy. As it travels through your nose, you start to get a little more of the diesel-y and the lilac behind it, and it's just almost intoxicating.
Ooh, I love that. I love the floral and the diverse smell where you kind of like trying a nice meal where it like hits part of your palate and then it hits other parts. That's really cool. And I think that the lilac component of Lilac Diesel is really interesting because terpinolene, which is a terpene we've been talking about in this category, is also found in lilacs, the flower lilacs. So we see kind of that overlap there. And something else that's really interesting about terpinolene is some research came out a few years ago where they were trying to see what terpenes are associated with indica and sativa effects to see if there's any scientific rationale here. And terpinolene was the only terpene that was associated with sativa-like varieties for those uplifting effects. So this kind of shows, like, if you are looking for more of a sativa effect, more of that uplifting feel, look for terpinolene. It's been scientifically proven to help with those more stimulating effects.
Definitely. And a lot of those florally strains, your nose will know.
That was our most stimulating category of Jacks and Hazes. And the next video, we're going to be discussing tropical and citrus, which are also going to be a bit uplifting, but maybe not as much as Jacks and Hazes. So stay tuned for that, but also feel free, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment with your favorite strain of Jacks and Hazes or what you look for in a dispensary when you're trying to look into this category.